You made it through another day. Tonight, forget about noisy streets, busy phones, or tomorrow's worries. Let me pour you a cup of old medieval ale. Warm, bitter, maybe a little strange. Close your eyes and listen close. Tonight, we drift back to a time when villagers traded muddy roads for muddy drinks and forgot the world, one sip at a time. Before you get too cozy, please like this video and subscribe if you truly enjoy sleepy stories like this. And tell me in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. I always love seeing who is drifting off with me across the world. Now, settle deeper under your blanket. Let the fan hum softly in the corner. Breathe slow and follow me into tonight's journey together. Picture this. You are sitting in a village alehouse. Not the royal banquet hall you might imagine in fairy tales. No, this place is warm. But the warmth comes from too many bodies, packed shoulder to shoulder. The floor is sticky with spilled ale and greasy stew. The walls lean in odd directions. A crooked beam above your head threatens to drop old thatch dust onto your cup at any moment. Next to you, a blacksmith snores with his head on the table. Across from you, a bard in a moth-eaten cloak brags he once defeated a dragon with nothing but a shoe. You smile politely, sip your drink, and pretend to believe him. In medieval Europe, the alehouse was not just a bar. It was the living room for everyone who did not have a warm living room at home. Most peasants lived in cold, damp huts, no windows, leaky roofs, and straw beds full of mice. So when the sun went down, they fled to the tavern. Here, they found warmth, cheap drink, gossip, maybe even a fiddle player if they were lucky. But the ale was not what you might call consistent. Unlike today's carefully bottled beer, medieval ale was a living creature. Some barrels fizzed and soured overnight. Some tasted like river water, spiced with a farmer's boot. And some were improved by adding extra herbs and roots. Sometimes, this made the drink better. Sometimes, it made it interesting. And sometimes, it made the local priest very nervous. Take yarrow, a simple roadside flower. Brewers often tossed it into the ale to add a floral twist. Nice. Harmless. Then someone tried bog myrtle. Slightly stronger. A hint of bitterness. And, according to old tales, just enough to make you forget your debts for an hour or two. But the real trouble came when cunning folk, local herbalists, wise women, and sometimes suspicious old men with too many mushrooms in their pockets decided to test which herbs might lift a drinker's mind higher than the church roof. Historians still argue about whether these experiments were clever medicine or dangerous fun. Some monks wrote warnings about plants that open the mind to illusions. Others just scribbled recipes for stronger ale and kept refilling their mugs. Imagine you, still sitting on that rough bench. Your mug is warm in your hands. You lift it. A sip hits your tongue. It tastes like grain, rainwater, and something slightly earthy that you can't quite name. You swallow anyway. After all, clean water is a gamble. This drink is safer, even if it does make you dream about talking goats later tonight. Behind the alehouse, behind the pigsty, secrets bubble in clay pots. The cunning folk boil roots and leaves under the moonlight. They whisper to the wind so no one can hear the ingredients. They believe some herbs protect the liver, some clear the mind, and some open doors in the head that maybe should stay closed. Betony was a favorite, an innocent-looking green plant. People believed betony cured headaches, sadness, nightmares, and even protected you from witchcraft. So naturally, they mixed it right into the ale. Peasants loved it. They said a mug of betony ale kept bad dreams away. Some folks claimed it made them forget hunger for a night. Convenient, when dinner was just stale bread. Meanwhile, monks in stone monasteries brewed their own ale. Stronger, better, brewed with clean water, precious hops, and sometimes an extra herb or two for spiritual focus. Historians suspect a few monks used spiritual focus as an excuse to nap on the floor after one mug too many. Can you blame them? Chanting prayers all night was hard work. A sip of strong ale made it easier to sing praise and forget that your cell had no fireplace. But tavern keepers were not about to lose customers to the monastery, so some got bold. They dropped henbane into ale. Henbane is not your everyday herb. A pinch can ease pain. A pinch too much and you might run into the woods barefoot, convinced you are a royal messenger for a kingdom that does not exist. People drank it anyway. A mug of henbane ale turned a dull night into a vivid adventure. You might tell your neighbor about it the next day, or swear to the priest that you saw angels dancing above your roof. The priest would roll his eyes and sprinkle more holy water on your doorstep. Did the local lord care? Usually not. As long as the taxes were paid and no riots broke out. Villagers could hallucinate about talking dogs all they wanted. The village well was worse. Anyway, one sip of bad water, and you might get a stomachache that lasted all winter. Ale, strange as it was, felt safer. Sometimes, when your head pounded after a night of questionable drinking, you crawled to the cunning woman's hut at the village edge. She would hand you a foul-smelling tonic, thick as mud, brewed from leftover roots and yesterday's ale foam. She might whisper a prayer or tie a garlic braid around your neck for good luck. Did it cure you? Maybe. Maybe not. But you paid her with a handful of eggs and promised not to tell the Lord you were drunk again. Some nights, the tavern turned into a stage for all kinds of drama. Couples argued over who owed the brewer more copper coins. A shepherd boasted he had seen fairies near the old mill pond. A wandering fiddler played a sad tune until someone paid him to stop. All the while, mugs clinked, fire crackled, and that special mix of beer and root did its quiet work. By morning, the village woke up to roosters crowing and the soft moans of men regretting that third mug of root-infused ale. But work waited for no one. Even with a mild headache and fuzzy memories, you tied your boots, grabbed your hoe, and marched to the muddy fields. Life went on. No pity for drunks when there were weeds to pull and lords to serve. Some villagers believed these strange herbs protected them from worse fates. A slip of root in your drink might keep the plague away, or so the gossip said. In truth, no herb could stop the Black Death when it rolled in on merchant carts. But faith is a stubborn thing. If a brew promised comfort, people drank it. If it promised a vision of a better life, even for one night, they emptied the cup gladly. Tonight, as you listen, imagine leaning back against that alehouse wall. The fire is low. A sleepy dog curls at your feet. Your mug is nearly empty. Somewhere, someone laughs at a joke about the village priest's bald head. Outside, the wind rattles the shutter. Inside, all you feel is warmth and the slow pull of sleep. Maybe, just maybe, that last sip carries a hint of Bethany, a whisper of henbane, and a promise that tomorrow will feel a little lighter. Or maybe it just helps you drift deeper into dreams where taxes do not exist and no one cares if your roof leaks. So close your eyes. Let the strange roots do their gentle work. And remember, in the Middle Ages, the only escape for a tired peasant was a warm ale, a kind lie, and a night where the world outside could not follow him home. Sleep well, sleepyhead. We have many more secrets to sip tomorrow. Tonight, forget the flick of a light switch. Forget your bright phone screen, glowing on the nightstand. Long ago, people had none of that. When the sun dropped behind the hills, darkness swallowed everything. Candles were precious. Lantern oil was expensive. So when the fire died down, most villagers lay awake. listening to rats in the rafters, hoping sleep would come quickly and thieves would stay far away. But humans hate boredom. Even more, they hate fear in the dark. So people found ways to light up the long nights in their heads. Nature offered them the cheapest cure for dread and dull evenings: mushrooms, moldy bread, and roots plucked by moonlight. Pull your blanket higher. Imagine your breath fogging the cold air in a one-room hut. You are tired. You ache from pulling weeds for your landlord who never smiles. And tonight you want an escape. There is no library. There is no television. There is only a damp forest, a friend with suspicious ideas, and an old memory that sometimes the weird mushrooms by the riverbank do something funny. You lie on your straw bed. But sleep won't come, so you grab your cloak and shuffle outside. There he is, your trusted companion in all poor decisions. He waves you over, points at a bundle hidden under a broken basket. Mushrooms, pale caps, dirt still clinging to them. He grins. You sigh. You know better. But you chew anyway. At first, nothing. You sit on a log, staring at your hut's crooked roof. A chicken wanders past. The same chicken you promised to fix a fence for last week. You doze. Then it begins. The log feels softer. The stars above twist in lazy circles. You giggle. Why? Who knows? You giggle because you are not you for a little while. You are something lighter, floating just above worry and sore knees. Historians still argue about how common this was. Some say only desperate peasants risked strange fungi. Others say entire forest villages knew exactly which mushrooms made winter nights warmer without burning a single log. The truth is simple. If you were cold, hungry, and scared of tomorrow, a mouthful of weird mushrooms felt like hope. But mushrooms were not the only hidden helper. Rye bread hid a secret too. The grain sometimes hosted a fungus called ergot. Unlike the friendly yeast that gives us beer, ergot was a trickster. It laced itself into the bread. No one saw it. No one smelled it. And then, one bite too many, and your evening became a festival of odd visions and unstoppable dancing. Whole towns fell victim. People spun in circles in churchyards, laughing, crying, then collapsing. Doctors could not explain it. Priests blamed the devil. Millers blamed vats. Everyone blamed everyone, except the bread. Meanwhile, next door, the cunning woman knew the truth, but wisely kept her mouth shut. Bread was sacred. Saying bread was poison was asking for trouble. Back in your hut, you see the roof ripple like pond water. You giggle again. Your friend has curled up beside you on the dirt floor, humming a tune only he can hear. Outside, your goat stares in, completely unimpressed. You swear you hear him sigh at your life choices. The church, of course, hated these peasant adventures. Visions, laughter, sudden public dances, all suspicious. Holy men preached that true visions come from saints, not from mushrooms growing on cow dung. But the church's scolding rarely reached into tiny huts hidden deep in wet forests. There, villagers trusted the forest more than the pulpit. In some places, monks themselves played with nature's secrets. Some herb gardens behind monastery walls hid more than rosemary and sage. Certain scrolls mention clarifying herbs to help a brother focus on scripture through long, candlelit nights. One theory whispers that even monks sampled mild fungi or used tiny doses of ergot in teas to soothe the mind before fasting prayers. These were not wild parties behind church walls, just quiet experiments, trying to ease headaches or find God in the flicker of a single flame. Most of the time, they found only stomachaches and guilt. But a few scribes recorded interesting dreams. In dusty Latin, No one has translated completely your peasant life. Meanwhile, stays simple. You do not know Latin. You do not care for monks' headaches. You care that your tiny patch of wheat turned black near the stalks this season. You grind it anyway. You bake bread anyway. You eat it because hunger always wins. And so, after the strange meal, your neighbor's family spins by the hearth. The children laugh until they cry. Their mother kneels, whispering prayers over her baby, who sees angels under the table. The father sits stone still, eyes wide. I'm sure the roof is full of invisible cats. The next day, no one mentions it. They blame bad weather, or bad spirits, or the neighbor's envy. But deep down, they know it was the bread. Now imagine this happening not just in your hut, but across hundreds of villages. A rumor of witches spreads quickly. Witches must have cursed the loaves. Witches must be dancing with devils under the old oak. In reality, the witch was just a harmless mold, growing quietly, waiting for the miller to notice. He never did. Some modern scholars link ergot outbreaks to famous witch hunts, centuries later. Hallucinations, hysteria, screams at midnight, all very convenient for fearful villagers and power-hungry judges. But that story, sleepyhead, is for another night. Tonight, stay here with me. Sit with your friend. The mushrooms have done their work. He hums. You see shapes in the firelight. A shadow becomes a kind face. Another shadow becomes a soft dream that tomorrow's rent might not matter. Outside, wolves howl in the forest, but they are far away. Inside, the world shrinks to your slow breath, your giggling friend, and the gentle weight of a sleep that feels safer than silence. No electricity, no lamp, no bright buzzing phone, just nature's mischief. A borrowed handful of warmth inside your chest, and the soft promise that tomorrow will come, whether you are ready or not. Before you drift off, let me whisper one last secret. In places you will never visit, forests still hide those mushrooms. Villagers still tell stories of a cousin's cousin who chewed the wrong one and woke up kissing a tree. Some tales claim that certain monks knew how to make a safe brew from tiny mushroom pieces, mixed with honey and old prayers. Some say the recipe was lost when the last scroll turned to dust. Tonight, we pretend you found it. We pretend you drink a warm sip of honey mushroom tea. No fear, no headache, no taxes waiting outside your door. Just a night so calm. Even the goat tiptoes away, not to wake you. Close your eyes now. Let the last warmth slip down your throat. The shadows in your hut melt into soft shapes. The world outside waits politely for dawn. In here, under your thin blanket and your brave little roof, there is only your breath and this drifting dream. Sleep well. Tomorrow, the forest stands ready with new secrets. And if you listen closely, maybe you will hear the faint laughter of old peasants who once trusted a mushroom to light up their dark nights. Rest easy, sleepyhead. We have many strange roots and weirder tales waiting for you tomorrow. Section 3. Herbs in the monastery. Ointments in the woods. You are still here with me. Good. Tonight, you and I leave the damp village behind for a little while. We slip through a heavy wooden gate, past thick stone walls, and find ourselves inside an old monastery garden. Here, herbs grow in neat rows. There is order. There is silence. There is the faint smell of lavender mixed with old parchment and humble soup. The monks here wear simple robes. They chant softly. Their days are ruled by bells, prayers, and the gentle work of tending God's green gifts. But if you look closer, if you listen when no abbot is watching, you might notice that behind those holy walls hides a tiny kingdom of secrets, roots, and bottles nobody talks about at Sunday Mass. Monasteries in medieval Europe were more than places to pray. They were hospitals, schools, libraries, and pharmacies, all at once. Monks studied plants because plants healed wounds and headaches. Monks wrote down recipes because parchment did not forget. Over time, some monks knew more about mixing strange herbs than any village healer ever dared to claim. Picture an old brother bent over a wooden table. A flickering candle drips wax beside him. In one hand, he holds a bundle of dried leaves. In the other, a dull knife. He mumbles Latin names. He grinds the leaves into powder. He adds honey, maybe a drop of strong wine if he feels bold tonight. He calls it a medicine. Maybe he is right. Maybe it is just a soft escape from endless silence. Some herbs were innocent enough. Mint for upset stomachs. Sage for coughs. Rosemary for the plague. Even if it never really helped. But tucked between harmless plants were herbs with deeper gifts. Henbana, mandrake, nightshade. To the average villager, these were witchcraft in a root. To the monk with an aching back and too many sins to confess, they were sometimes a quiet blessing. Historians still argue about how honest monks were with their own records. Somme monasteri herbals, written in beautiful Latin. List dangerous plants in neat rows, each with a polite warning, but hidden between lines about rosemary and thyme. You find notes like a root that calms the mind or a leaf that brings sleep quickly. One old recipe simply says, "Take at sunset, pray before sleep." Outside these stone walls, deep in the woods, another figure works alone. She is no monk. She is the village cunning woman. Maybe you would call her a witch if your crop failed. But when your child burns with fever or your wife screams in labor, you run to her hut faster than you kneel at the church steps. She does not write her knowledge in Latin. She whispers it to her granddaughter while they pick roots at dusk. She stirs her pot with a wooden spoon, stained dark by secrets. When you knock at her door, she opens it with a sigh and a look that knows you cannot pay her properly. She helps you anyway. In her hut, dried bundles hang from the rafters. Little clay pots line the shelf. Some hold ointments. Some hold powders. Some hold secrets no priest will ever bless. She knows what monks know, sometimes more, because she does not fear gossip. She fears letting her people die when a pinch of the right powder might save them. Imagine now, you are her visitor. You stand shivering by her hearth. You whisper that your bones ache. Your head spins at night. You dream of demons. She nods. She reaches for a pot so old its lid sticks. She dips her fingers inside, lifts out a greasy balm that smells of old garlic and something sharper. She tells you to rub it on your temples before sleep. She tells you not to talk about it to the priest tomorrow. You obey, because hope tastes better than fear. Back in the monastery, the same herbs find another path. Brothers press them into holy water, hide them inside candles, or drip them onto bandages. A wounded knight, brought in from the winter road, does not care whether his healing salve is blessed. He cares that it numbs the burning pain where a rusty sword met his flesh. He cares that after a sip of monk's brew, he sees gentle angels instead of brutal memories. Of course, not every mixture worked as promised. Sometimes a novice monk used too much root or too little honey. Sometimes a cunning woman tried a new blend under a full moon and forgot a step. When that happened, people blamed demons, or witches, or their own sins. No one blamed the root. Nature was holy. Humans simply failed to listen properly. Tonight, I want you to picture a special mixture both monks and cunning women knew. It went by many names. Some called it flying ointment. Others called it nonsense. Superstition. Gossip to frighten children. But stories persist. The ointment was made from fat, herbs, and whispered prayers spoken backwards. Hinbana, mandrake, belladonna, crushed carefully, mixed with animal fat, sometimes pig, sometimes goose, stirred under moonlight, stored in small pots hidden under floorboards. How was it used? Not in soup, not in tea. It was rubbed on skin, on delicate skin, on places where blood flows close and fast. The cunning woman might say, "Rub a little here, then close your eyes." The monk might never say such words. But a curious novice might find the recipe and wonder. One story claims women who used this ointment dreamed they flew through the sky to dance with the devil himself. Or maybe they just escaped the bitter cold and hunger for a few sweet hours of weightless sleep. Modern scholars debate whether anyone really flew or if the ointment simply caused vivid, swirling dreams that felt real. The church did not care. Flight was flight. Visions were dangerous. Anyone caught with such a pot of ointment risked fire, rope, or worse, but for the desperate soul kneeling by the hearth. Sometimes a dream of flying felt worth any risk, and so, hidden behind monastery doors, locked inside forest huts, these recipes survived, whispered from teacher to student, mother to daughter, scribe to scribe. They wove through centuries like a secret melody, soft but stubborn. Tonight, as you breathe slow, imagine standing in that monastery garden at dawn. A pale mist drifts over neat herb beds. Somewhere inside, an old brother stirs warm water with a sprig of mint. He hums an old hymn. He tells himself the mint will help him read by candlelight just 1 hour longer, far away. In the deep woods, the cunning woman steps outside her hut. She wipes her hands on her apron. She lifts her eyes to the rising sun. She whispers thanks to the plants she picked under the moon. Her jar sits safe inside. She knows her neighbors call her many names. Healer, witch, friend, enemy. But tomorrow, when the fever comes or the bone breaks, they will come, and she will open her door, some nights, under soft furs and thin blankets. You might dream you stand between these two worlds, one foot on monastery stone, the other on forest moss, both hands holding tiny jars filled with hope and mischief. You might dream you smell crushed sage and night-blooming flowers. You might wake with the taste of mint on your tongue, wondering if you, too, once knew a recipe worth keeping secret. So rest now. Let the walls of your room fade away. Let your breath sink into the roots and leaves of old gardens, long forgotten. In this night, herbs are gentle, ointments are kind. No one whispers witch. No one accuses. There is only the hush of leaves in the wind and the promise that somewhere in every shadow, healing waits for the brave. Sleep well. Sleepyhead. Tomorrow, we will open another door, and behind it, stranger stories still wait for you. Section 4. How to accidentally see angels and sometimes the devil. Welcome back. Sleepyhead. You're still here. Eyes heavy. Breath slow. Good. Tonight, we peek inside the flickering mind of a medieval soul who, with no science degree, no doctor, and no sensible fear of risky herbs, managed to see angels, or at least believed they did, and sometimes, if luck ran out, they saw something far less polite. In the Middle Ages, visions were serious business. If you saw a holy figure while praying, you were blessed. If you saw the same figure after drinking a mug of root-spiked ale in a dark tavern, well, you might be possessed. Or worse, gossip would spread that you owed the priest extra coins for an exorcism, but human minds crave light in the darkness. So people, from monks to milkmaids, turned to nature's secret doors. They did not have candles for the mind. They had herbs, balms, and sometimes a pinch too much of something best left under a rock. Let's drift back to a simple village. Imagine a weary farmer, call him Robert. Robert works dawn to dusk. His back aches. His belly stays half empty. The local lord demands taxes. The local priest demands penance. Robert demands only one thing a night, when his dreams feel kinder than his waking hours. So Robert goes to the cunning woman at the edge of the woods. She knows every leaf in her patch of forest. She knows which root makes your head stop pounding and which root makes you forget your wife's angry chatter for a few hours. Tonight, Robert asks for something special. He whispers that he wants to see a sign from heaven, or at least something bright enough to outshine his muddy boots. The cunning woman squints at him, clicks her tongue, and rummages through her cluttered shelves. She pulls out a small pouch. Inside, bits of dried plant, powdery and strange-smelling, mandrake root, crushed fine, mixed with honey and old prayers. She tells Robert to boil it in wine, sip slowly, and lie down near his hearth. And most importantly, she warns him not to drink too much. Robert, like many of us, hears only what he wants to hear. Back at his hut, he waits until his wife snores. He lights a tiny candle stub, drops the powder into cheap wine, stirs with his finger, because spoons are for lords. He drinks. He waits. First, he feels warm, then lighter. Then, his candle flickers in ways that candles should not flicker. Suddenly, the smoke shapes itself into what he swears is Saint Michael himself. Sword in hand, wings spread wide, the vision floats above Robert's hearth, glowing softly. Robert weeps with gratitude. He promises to give up swearing, gambling, and yelling at the goat. Saint Michael does not answer, because Saint Michael is, in truth, just a swirl of mind and root. But Robert does not know this. In a few hours, Robert wakes up on the floor, mouth dry, goat chewing his blanket. He swears the vision was real. The village, hearing the tale, half believes him. The priest frowns, but collects a nice donation from Robert's guilty purse. Robert's story is not unique. All across medieval Europe, people mixed faith with roots, prayers with powders, hope with risky recipes. Some drank a cup and dreamed of angels. Some rubbed ointment on thin skin and felt they floated above rooftops. Some claimed they danced with saints under moonlight, barefoot on dewy grass. The church both adored and feared these visions. On one hand, a holy vision could turn a nobody into a saint, a martyr, or at least a village celebrity. Pilgrims paid good money to visit places where visions had appeared. Relics, shrines, and candles followed the trail of whispered miracles. On the other hand, fake visions, or worse, the visions born from plants instead of God, threatened the tidy order the church loved so much. If everyone could see heaven after a mug of spiced wine, who needed priests to interpret dreams? If a cunning woman's ointment could make a peasant swear, he flew with angels. What power did the bishop really hold? And records show a curious dance. Priests sometimes blessed the visionary, sometimes burned them at the stake. A thin line separated saintly visions from dangerous hallucinations. And medieval people, clever as always, walked that line with wide eyes and risky curiosity. Not all visions were sweet. Sometimes, the roots turned mean. Belladonna, for instance, looked harmless in the garden, but hid sharp teeth inside its purple berries. A few berries numbed pain. A handful tricked the mind into seeing horned shadows by the bedpost. Some unlucky souls believed the devil himself, whispered dark secrets, while they lay helpless in sweaty beds. Yet even then, desperate villagers returned for more. Better a frightening dream than the dull certainty of hunger and unpaid rent. Better to blame a demon for your angry outburst than admit you just hated your neighbor's loud rooster. Not just peasants dabbled in this blurry realm. Nobles, too, liked forbidden balms and tinctures. Court healers mixed tiny doses of nightshade to calm noblemen before surgery, or to help noble women sleep through childbirth. Whispered rumors claimed that a few powerful families owned secret dream boxes, carved wood containers, hiding powders so potent that one sniff could send a sleepless baron into visions of silk and song. Back in the monastery, hidden behind cold walls and echoing hymns, monks sometimes struggled with their own visions. Sleep deprivation, fasting, and too much incense made a brother's mind dance on its own. Add a tea brewed too long with strange leaves, and a humble scribe might claim he spoke with angels who corrected his spelling errors by candlelight. Of course, the abbot rarely approved such revelations. A few lines in old manuscripts hint that certain monks were quietly sent away to distant cloisters, safe places to dream in peace. Out of sight, far from curious pilgrims and worried bishops, in the woods. Meanwhile, the cunning woman stayed busy. Her customers wanted more than healing salves for sores. They wanted answers about dead relatives, love spells to win over a cold spouse, glimpses of the future hidden behind the curtain of ordinary days. So she adapted. She mixed a little more mandrake, a little less henbane. She taught her daughters how to watch for the dangerous dose. She buried bad batches deep in the earth, whispering apologies to old spirits. Some villagers paid her in eggs. Some promised to repair her roof. Some paid in silence, vowing never to tell the Lord that the night before they danced barefoot in the yard, arms raised, seeing stars no one else could see. Tonight, wrapped in your blanket, you do not need to taste bitter root tea or rub strange grease on your wrists. You only need to imagine the courage it took to trust a handful of leaves when your world offered so little comfort. The daring hope to see heaven. Even if your neighbors mocked you the next day, breathe slow. Feel the hush in your room. Let your heartbeat echo the soft prayers of monks and the whispered charms of cunning women. The visions of angels and devils come not to scare you tonight, but to remind you how much people, long ago, I needed a little magic to keep the dark away. If you ever feel life too heavy, too plain, remember Robert by his hearth. Remember the nun who brewed tea she did not list in her garden inventory. Remember that sometimes the human mind, hungry for light, finds it in the strangest shadows. Tomorrow, we shall open another dusty door. More secrets, more laughter, more quiet company for your drifting mind. But for now, let this night be gentle. Sleep well. Sleepyhead, may your dreams tonight hold only kind angels. No horned shadows. And just enough old mischief to remind you that somewhere, under the soft hum of your fan, history still whispers. Section 5. The dancing plagues and other unplanned parties. Settle in deeper tonight. Let your shoulders drop. Let the last echoes of your busy day fade into the hum of your fan. Because tonight, we are going to dance, or rather, watch a lot of very confused medieval villagers dance until their feet blistered, their minds blurred, and the priests scratched their heads, wondering if demons had learned new dance steps. Close your eyes and imagine a small town, cobblestone streets, a market square with a tilted well, chickens cluck near muddy shoes. One hot summer day, a woman, no one remembers her name, now steps into the square. She hums softly. She sways her hips. A few people glance over, but they do not think much of it. Maybe she has had too much cheap ale. Maybe she just likes the sun on her shoulders. But she does not stop. Her feet stamp the ground. Her arms rise and fall in a slow rhythm. A child giggles and tries to copy her. By sunset, a handful of villagers join her. They spin, they laugh. They do not notice blisters forming on bare heels. By morning, the whole square thumps like a heartbeat. 40 peasants, sweaty and wide-eyed, twist and hop to music only they can hear. The local priest rushes out, clutching a crucifix. He begs them to stop. They cannot. Their legs obey no command except the dance. This is not a fairy tale. It happened, more than once. Historians call it a dancing plague. The poor villagers at the centre called it something else impossible to stop. In Strasbourg, in 1518, records say one woman danced alone for days before a crowd joined her. Within weeks, the town council panicked. They hired musicians, hoping music would calm the possessed feet. It only made the dancers spin faster. Some collapsed from exhaustion. Some died. No demons arrived. No saints appeared to save them. Only silence when the last foot finally stilled. But Strasbourg was not the only place cursed by these accidental parties. Before it, medieval towns across the Rhine River region documented outbreaks. A dusty village in the Low Countries once saw dozens stomp their way to raw feet and empty pockets. Neighbours blamed witches. Others blamed sin. The smart ones blamed mouldy bread. Remember our old friend ergot, that trickster fungus that crept into rye fields? Many scholars think it played a wicked role here. Peasants ate tainted loaves. Their minds flickered strange. And the square became a dance floor for the possessed. Picture it now. You are a miller's daughter. Your father bakes rye bread every morning. One summer, the grain spoils. But hunger does not wait for fresh harvests. You eat the bread anyway. One evening, your feet tap the dirt floor while you hum. You think nothing of it? The next night, you wake under the moon, barefoot in the square, spinning beside your cousin, who also cannot stop. Your mother tries to pull you home. She cries when you break free and keep dancing until dawn. In the crowd, someone whispers about witches. Another whispers about saints testing your faith. No one whispers fungus because no one yet knows how tiny spores can tangle human minds into a dance. The church, as always, tries to help and control. In Strasbourg, priests set up shrines to Saint Vitus, patron saint of dancing and epilepsy. They led processions, sprinkled holy water, offered relics for trembling dancers to kiss. It worked sometimes, or maybe the bread simply ran out. Meanwhile, local physicians offered another solution: let them dance it out. Better exhausted than cursed forever. So they hired pipers and drummers. Villagers surrounded the dancers, clapped along, hoping the plague would burn itself away like a fever sweat. For days, music filled alleys. For days, feet bruised, knees buckled, and the air smelled of human exhaustion.